Hello, I'm Crispin and welcome to Poker Room Review, your guide for live poker rooms all across the world. In each episode, we review a live poker venue, discussing the important things you need to know when planning your next poker destination. For each venue, we review a range of characteristics, including location and access, game options, service and experience, and Rake and Rewards. We'll also discuss any rules, quirks, and issues we identify when visiting each location. Today, we are returning to Malta, this time the Dragonara Casino in St. Julian's. Dragonara Casino is one of the two main venues in Malta that runs poker on an ongoing basis, both cash games and tournaments. Category 1, location and access. For those that haven't watched the video on Portomaso, Malta is a small island in the Mediterranean about 200 kilometers south of Sicily. Dragonara Casino is located in the city of St. Julian's, which can be easily reached in around 20 minutes by car from the airport or 45 minutes via bus. A taxi costs around 20 euros and the bus about 3 euros. Dragonara Casino is a standalone classic style building situated out at the far end of the peninsula behind the Western Hotel. Those that have seen our last video on Malta would know that St. Julian's is a nightlife and clubbing hotspot, but with a somewhat dingy and overcrowded feel. Dragonara's location alone on the peninsula is somewhat removed from all this and therefore doesn't have the same overcrowded vibe. That said, unless you're staying in the Western itself, we really do recommend using Valletta as your base of operations while in Malta, since the capital is far cleaner and family friendly and benefits from a main bus depot from which you can reach anywhere on the island, also with the ferry to Gozo. While in Malta, you'll want to try the local wine and cuisine, visit the ancient city of Mdina, and take the ferry to the more traditional Gozo Island. You'll also definitely want to check out the megalithic structures built by a prehistorical civilization, especially the Hypogeum, a magnificent subterranean temple complex that predates the pyramids of Egypt, and in my opinion is far more impressive than Stonehenge. You'll need to book it though weeks in advance, so be sure to plan ahead. Notwithstanding the recommendation to stay in Valletta, if you do choose to remain in St. Julian's, you'll find that it has every convenience and plenty of accommodation options. Dragonara Casino is also easy walking distance with breathtaking views. 4 stars. Category 2, game options. Games are limited in hours and choices. Games start each evening from between 6 and 7 p.m, usually with 2 cash tables running and a small tournament running alongside it. The limited games running can surprise some people since Malta is famous for its major events such as the Malta Poker Festival. Any Google search makes it seem as though Malta is a European poker hotspot. However, outside the major international events, Malta's poker scene is actually pretty subdued. While available, Malta is not the poker mecca one might be led to believe, and this is understandable given that the permanent population of Malta is just 500,000 for the whole island. Cash games at Dragonara comprise either a 1-2 euro table and a 2-5 table, or 2 1-2 tables, both being no limit Texas Hold'em, although I did overhear some players canvassing the idea of playing rotation instead, and apparently the casino is responsive to player requests. The 1-2-5 table has a 500 euro max buy-in, which is great, and unlike at Portomaso, you'll find that most players tend to buy in deep here, usually well over 100 big blinds. Tournaments are small by comparison, with tiny buy-ins, some as small as 15 euros. Personally, I didn't see much crossover between the players at the cash tables and the tournaments, which seem to attract quite different demographics. While this obviously won't appeal to serious professionals, the cheap tournaments available at Dragonara could be a good option for new novices. Still, the cash games do run for many hours and were still going on at the end of each session, which I retired from. So while small, if you're happy playing low stakes live cash games in the evenings, you'll feel adequately served at Dragonara. 2.5 stars. 3. Service and experience. Here, Dragonara really outdoes itself and is far better than a poker room of this size has any right to be. The only issue is finding the poker room, which is not at all obvious when you enter the casino. In fact, despite being a very small casino, you may well need to be guided by staff because the poker room is well hidden. Upon entry to the main floor, you'll turn immediately to the left and go through one of the smoking areas, but you continue straight through and there is a door on the other side of that that leads to the poker area. Ultimately, this has an advantage in terms of privacy, but does mean that casual visitors to the casino have almost no chance of seeing the poker area and deciding to play. At a minimum, the casino should introduce some dynamic signposting on the main floor to inform visitors that there is a poker room and where it's located. That said, the poker area is smoke-free and absolutely magnificent. Truly one of the most beautiful settings for poker anywhere on earth. The poker room is actually situated in a large indoor patio area with panoramic windows overlooking a stunning Maltese bay. Few poker rooms have natural light at all, let alone with such breathtaking views. The dealers and floor staff are organised and professional, with the manager coming over to inform me personally when the seat became available. Staff are also conspicuously well dressed, as if going to the casino is a genuine night out for the guests. Service staff come around regularly, and both food and non-alcoholic drinks are complimentary. There's good ambient music that isn't too loud, shuffling machines at the cash tables are available and keep the hands ticking over, and even the cash chips themselves feel heavy and decent. Lighting can be a bit of an issue once the sun goes down because the overhead lights are a bit dull and you can struggle to see bet sizes and hands across the table. Simply increasing the overhead wattage would resolve this. The room can get quite warm in summer, and a kind of greenhouse effect happens in this outdoor patio area. Although there are air conditioners all the way along it, they really do need to be cramped up a bit. The door to the smoking area can sometimes be left open by patrons, and some kind of automated mechanism for closing the door would be beneficial and keep players safe from the cigarette smoke, rather than having them to get up and do it themselves. Finally, as with Portomasso, any money change at the table must be supervised by floor staff, however small the amount. This can really slow things up. My recommendation is to have all the rebuy chips you'll need in a bag when you sit down and to cash out personally at the cage. If these issues sound like nitpicks though, they are. Overall, Dragonara is truly magical in both scenery and service. You'll feel relaxed and comfortable playing here for many hours. Dragonara outdoes itself for a room of this size. For service and experience, 4 stars. 4. Rake and Rewards. Like Portomasso, Cash Table's Rake is fantastic percentage-wise at 4%, but again with a high cap of €15 at a 1-2 table. With most players buying in deep, and with a €5 straddle frequently in play, the high cap seems to be hit quite frequently. Meanwhile, the Rake for tournaments can be truly horrifying for the cheapest buy-ins, since the casino still needs to justify the dealer dealt service. So it's fine if you play the €50 tournament on Friday or Saturday evenings, but the same total rake is taken for a €15 tournament, which makes playing those completely untenable, something you should consider only if you're a total novice to poker and want to learn the tournament rules on the cheap. There aren't any jackpots or high hand bonuses to speak of. Tips are not required, but are accepted and appreciated. Having a 4% rake for cash tables is always going to put a floor under the score we give in this category. However, the high cap does take a lot of money off the table during large pots, and also the rake for the €15 buy-in tournaments is as much as a third. Still, by avoiding the low buy-in tournaments, you can manage this reasonably well. 3 stars. As for the rules and issues, most things seem pretty standard. Players can run it multiple times if they're all in, they can buy the button if coming in on the small blind, and most other rules will be familiar with most players, except for one thing to do with straddling, which does have a significant effect on the game. Players who wish to straddle can do so either under the gun or a Mississippi straddle on the button. However, if someone puts down a Mississippi straddle, then the under the gun player has the option to put in their own straddle, which forces the dealer to take their straddle back. This has the effect of more than average numbers of pots being straddled, making that the 1-2 game tend to play a little bit higher. There's also sort of a Mexican tit-for-tat standoff where everyone can tacitly agree not to straddle at all because there's a lot of revenge at this table. Players are able to have their phones and listen to earpods during play, and players are friendly with good etiquette. The language might be a bit of a barrier for some people as the banter is all exclusively in Maltese and Italian, although the dealers are diligent in making sure that the action is announced in English. Most players are young and can at least speak conversational English themselves and will be friendly with you. Other than that, when travelling to Malta, just remember to book well in advance, since accommodation on the island does tend to be pretty expensive relative to many places around the world. It can also get hot in summer, with the temperature unrelenting around the clock, save for the occasional sea breeze. In conclusion, while poker at Dragonara Casino is a limited and subdued affair, they really do show what you can do with little if you just put in a bit of effort. The class and presentation of staff is superb, service is diligent and generous, and the setting just beautiful. For a short-term visit and the casual player, it's an ideal place for a night of poker. 3.5 stars. We review new poker rooms regularly, so if you found value in this content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons because it's the only way YouTube will know that this is the case. Also, please, if you have access to any Facebook groups or poker forums, consider sharing this video because getting more views is the only way we'll be able to make more content. In the meantime, have you been to Dragonara Casino's poker room? If so, what did you think? Is there anything I've missed or recommendations you would like to make? I'm sure everyone watching would appreciate it. If you want to check out more reviews, you can do so right now, and otherwise we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.